Welcome back to part 3 of another fanfiction of What If Jiraiya brought Tayuya with Naruto on their training trip Naruto X Tayuya. Please make sure to like and subscribe as it motivates me to upload more in the future, and as always link to the fanfiction is in the description. 11. Departing again, Naruto's training intensifies. And you're certain that the Kyuubi no Jinchuriki has left Konoha? Asked the holographic image of a man dressed in black robes with red clouds, his eyes gazing out without emotion. Across from him was a being of black and white with what looked like a Venus flytrap around his body. Yes, we've confirmed it, he has traveled out of the village with Jiraiya of the Sannin. The man's rippled purple eyes narrowed. I see, and where is he now? We don't know where he's going, but it appears that he's currently in Kawa no Kuni. Rumor has it that he killed one of the 7 ninja swordsmen. Oh, a blue-skinned, shark-toothed man smiled. That's interesting. Which one was it? Raiga, the white half of the being said. He is now the wielder of the Kiba, said the black half. The rippled-eyed man was silent for a moment, letting the information sink in. The boy is growing to be quite troublesome. Itachi, Kisame, you two will track him down so we may imprison him until his time comes. We still have 2 years before we can begin to move. Within that time, the Sanbi should have reformed since the death of its previous host. What about the host of the Rokubi? Asked a blond man with an eye patch. Do we know where he is yet? No, the rippled-eyed man said, we still haven't gotten any leads. Kakuzu, your sources are good at finding bounties for you to take in. Place a bounty on this man, and find his location. You and Hidan will then keep an eye on him. When it is his time, I will retrieve him myself. What about Orochimaru? Rasped a hunched-over figure. My spy is still in his holdings. And from what I've heard, Uchiha Sasuke has joined his ranks. Itachi's red eyes narrowed for a moment, betraying a small amount of rage from this information. He will be dealt with in time, the ripple-eyed man said, perhaps sooner than we think. I have heard that he has an interest in the Sanbi as well. Toby, you will also keep an eye on him. If he moves against the Sanbi, deal with him. A giggle came from the last member present, his face hidden behind an orange mask, and a single hole for his lone eye. Toba's gonna do good, Leader Sama, cuz Toba's a good boy. Kawa no Kuni X. Naruto and the other were treated to a party for the liberation of the mining town, but one thing weighed heavily on the mind of a certain blonde shinobi as he watched to the goings-on of the village. For the first time in his life, he had killed in cold blood instead of using his Rasengan. Never before had he not used the massive chakra to end someone's life. The land of snow, the Crescent Moon Kingdom, and the valley he had found that stone. But this time he'd used a weapon, and the blood now covering his hands was like a beacon to him. Even though he had long washed it away, it was still there. And then there was the fact that he had failed to protect someone precious to him. The sight of Tayuya being shocked to death would stay with him until his dying days. The blonde sighed as he watched the others having fun, his eyes on Tayuya as she doted on Remara as his newly aged body. From what Tsunade had told them, Remara was now a healthy 9-year-old, capable of walking. A fact that the boy was ecstatic about. Tsunade again cautioned him about the use of his dujutsu, saying that he wasn't able to control the flow of his chakra while using his healing abilities derived from the Tensegan, he would age yet again. Since he had a still small chakra reserve. But Neji was the one that Naruto watched the closest. His interest in Remara was disturbing to say the least. After Jiraiya had told them about what may happen to Remara if he went to the Leaf Village now didn't sit well with the blonde or his temperamental companion, or any of them for that matter. Before the party had got underway, Neji had pulled the boy aside and showed him the basic Juken stances and movements, showing him the way to see an opponent's chakra points, and explained how to close them. It had surprised Naruto to no end that the normally stoic Hyuga had done such a thing. Oi, shithead, Tayuya said, startling him out of thoughts as she came up behind him. What are you doing up here by yourself? She sat down beside him, something bugging ya. Naruto smirked, sorta. I don't know what's wrong with me. He mumbled, scratching the back of his head. Blushing, he asked, are you doing okay? I mean, you did take that Raiden for me and never fucking better. Tayuya smiled at him while flexing her arms. Takes more than that to keep me, Ak. Naruto turned toward her and wrapped his arms around her, causing the redhead to blush furiously. Naruto, what are you doing? Don't ever do that again, he whispered, clutching her against him, do you know how much that killed me inside to see you go down like that? He tightened his hold on her, and she felt him shaking, realizing that he was scared. In the meantime, her heart was hammering into her rib cage. She'd been held by him before, but not like this. She'd never given it any thought, but she'd only ever hugged her parents when she still lived with them. Naruto. I was scared, he said, I thought I'd lost another friend. I can't let that happen again. So please, don't do that again, I can't take it. Tayuya was more than a little shocked by this. Why? Why can't I protect my friends, too? She asked as she unconsciously wrapped her arms around his back. Don't you think I wanted to protect you if I jumped in like that? I mean, it'd hurt me if you died, too. That's the thing, Naruto said, pulling back, I'm not easy to kill. He moved the robes of his Hiyori back and showed her two very nasty scars on his chest. One on his right chest, over a lung, and the other directly over his heart. The girl gasped. The wounds should have been fatal. What the fuck? Sasuke did this, Naruto said, replacing his robes. He told me that we were best friends, and that with my death, he could achieve the Mangekyo Sharingan. He sighed, placing his hand over the right side of his chest. He stabbed me with his Chidori here, first. But I healed myself, and went on the offensive. But that curse mark of his gave him a boost, and he was able to nail me again. I don't know how I survived that last one. Luck, I guess. But, fuck, either one of these should have killed you. Tayuya said angrily, looking up at him, how can you keep going after that son of a bitch after he's done all this to you? Aren't you afraid he'll do the same? He nodded, if he's with Orochimaru, then I'm betting the next time we see each other that we'll be at each other's throats. But that doesn't matter, I made a promise to someone that I'd bring him back, and I was also taught by my sensei that those that break the rules are scum. Damn right they are, she snapped. But those that abandon their comrades are worse than scum. Naruto finished, smirking at her, so you see, if I just forgot about him, and left him to his fate, I'd be worse than he is. Tayuya kept her mouth shut this time, not knowing how to argue with him this time. He was set, and what was more, he was making sense. If it were him, she would be going after him. She reached up and placed a hand on his chest. If we find him, and he tries to kill you again, you gotta promise that you won't let him, got it? If he doesn't come easily, you have to do what's necessary to live. I don't fucking care about some bullshit promise that you made, I don't want you to die, either. Naruto just laughed, you'd probably bring me back just so you could kick my ass for failing. Tayuya smirked and gave his cheek a hard pinch and pull, damn straight I would. X equals. Unbeknownst to the pair, two others were watching them. Still having doubts about the girl, Jiraiya asked his old teammate. Tsunade had a smile on her face as she watched Naruto rub his cheek. No, I really don't think I do. In a way, it's almost like I'm seeing Kushina brought back to life. She said, recalling the young Uzumaki girl, Naruto's just the same. Not really, Jiraiya said, he's more than a little like his father. And that scroll you sent him really sent him over the edge about sealing. I've never seen him work so hard on something in my life. Not even when I'm going after him in a spar. You should see some of the work he's done in just a few weeks. Tsunade quirked an eyebrow at him, is he Jonin material? Not yet, Jiraiya shook his head, maybe by the time we get back, but I'd like to see how far he can go with the four of us now. He has Tayuya, and now Remara as teammates, so we'll see how he does at being a leader. Tsunade nodded to this, agreeing with his reasoning. So, what are your plans for the future? I mean, where do you go from here? Jiraiya grinned, I was thinking of going to Suna from here. The boy's got a powerful wind nature that needs training, and Suna is the best at wind style ninjutsu. He gave her a small smirk, unless you'd like Danzo to teach him. Hell no. Wham. Yeowch. Naruto and Tayuya were startled out of the moment by the yelp of the Sannin being slammed into the ground. What the? How could you even joke about something like that? Tsunade roared, picking Jiraiya up by his collar and shaking him, are you out of your mind? Naruto just laughed, sounds like Pervy Sage was being bad again. I was not. Jiraiya yelped, help me out here. Yeah, no fucking way am I getting in the middle of that. Tayuya smirked, enjoying the show, besides, you deserve this after falling for that stupid clone trick Naruto pulled on you. That was days ago. Jiraiya yelled, and the brat played dirty. Naruto chuckled, wanna head back to the party? He asked, offering her his hand. Tayuya nodded and took it, letting him lead her away from the beating. Oi, where are you going? Jiraiya yelled after them as he tried to get away, come back here and help me. X equals. Meanwhile, Remara was having a fun time at the little party. As Naruto and Tayuya came back, he was found talking with Lee about multiple training exercises for his legs should they weaken again, and Neji was still giving him more points on the finer movements of the Juken. All the while Tenten and Sakura were chatting animatedly, but, upon seeing Naruto, Tenten bounded up to him. Naruto-kun, you gotta let me see those swords again. Tenten squealed with a pleading gesture, please. I wanna see if I can figure out how to recreate them. Naruto's sweat dropped, didn't you learn your lesson last time? Your hair's still a little frizzy. Is not. Tenten snapped, absently reaching up to smooth her hair down. After her initial attempt at examining the kiba, she had quickly found out that touching them when they did not like you was a big mistake. The poor kunoichi had been blasted back by a weak shock from the swords. But did that stop her? Of course not. Look, Tenten-chan, I know you wanna look at these swords, but you can't touch them without getting shocked, or killing me first, he said, and noticed a slight gleam in the girl's eye that made him shiver, almost like she wanted to try that second option. But a growl from Tayuya set her straight, and snapped her out of that thought. As soon as we find a way to keep that from happening, you can look as much as you want, okay? Rubber gloves might help. Tenten mused, though clearly disappointed. Do you fucking have a pair? Tayuya asked in annoyance. Well, no, but. Then just forget about for now, okay? Tayuya said, it's not like shithead's gonna up and disappear. Tenten pouted, he's gonna be gone for 3 years. Tenten-san, Sakura called out, leave them alone. It's not every day that Naruto gets a girl. Finish that, Pinky, and I'll show you just how far a kunai can be shoved up your. Alright, Naruto yelled, enough's enough. We didn't come here to fight, we came here to party. Now let's get to it. Yes, I agree. Lee said, raising a glass of liquid, it is most unythful for new friends to fight, especially after a great victory such as this. I propose a toast to new friendships. With that he threw back his drink, and Neji suddenly realized something. Lee, don't drink. Got too late. Neji groaned as Lee became red in the face, his eyes falling to half-mast. Lee staggered to his feet, and looked straight at Naruto, who was sweating heavily. Oi, what you looking at? You wanna fi? Uh-oh. Tayuya was looking at the staggering genin in confusion, what the hell's with bushy brow? What you call me? Before anyone had time, or sense enough to knock him out, Lee launched himself at the pair. And that's when the party really got started. X equals. My head feels like a paper bomb went off in it, Tayuya moaned when she woke up the next morning. She was bruised, battered, and worse, hung over, again. That's it, I never want to see another fucking drop of sake again. Something stirred beside her, and Naruto's blob of blonde hair popped up from under a blanket. Man oh man, remind me never to invite bushy brow to another party that serves alcohol again. He groaned, rubbing a lump on his head. I knew he was nuts, but that was insane. Tayuya squinted at him. Better have a good reason for being in my fucking bed, shithead, she growled at him, in no mood for gags, jokes, or any sort of merriment, not with the headache she had right now. Naruto sat up and kicked the blanket off. You kidding? He asked, this is my room. I carried you back here after we got away from Lee. He flexed his arms and winced, damn it, that guy hits hard when he's drunk. Yeah, no shit, Tayuya groaned, wincing at the loudness of her own voice. Dear Kami, I never want to do this again. She toppled over and back onto the futon, pulling it over her head. Wake me when the world stops being so loud. Naruto rolled his eyes and tugged at the mattress. Come on, Tayuya-chan, we're leaving today, remember? The villagers wanted to give us a proper send-off. Don't give a shit, she mumbled from her hiding spot, my head's killing me. Naruto laughed and peeked under the edge, seeing Tayuya scowling at him. Get out of my bed, Tayuya-chan. Bite my ass, blondie, she rolled over, resigned to try and ignore him. But that thought went to hell in a handbasket said blonde started tickling her. Ah, quit it ya jackass. Tayuya squealed, and kicked at him. Naruto laughed and backed off enough for Tayuya to sit up. She glared at the boy angrily. What the fuck's your problem, shithead? Can't you let me sleep a little? Sorry, but Pervy Sage said we're leaving early, Naruto said. He wants to get a move on before Kiri moves on us too. Retrieve my swords. Tayuya groaned and flopped back on the blankets. Just give him the damn things. Nope, the blonde grinned. Now come on and get packed, or I'll start tickling you again. Besides, Remara's excited to get going. I'll bet he is, Tayuya snipped, rolling to her feet. What about that Hyuga that was so interested in him? Neji. He's been trying to convince him to go back to the village with him, but Remara's pretty stoked about coming with us. Naruto said, smiling, but he's being a really good sport about it. He even asked Pervy Sage if he would allow him to take the boy back for training in the Juken, and you know what he said. What? Tayuya frowned. Ask the Gaki's guardians, Naruto said, meaning you and me are responsible for Remara. Great, Tayuya said, palming herself in the face. Terrific, that means he's pretty much put us down as the kid's parents. Not really, Naruto smirked, though he was sporting a small blush. We're more like his Oni-san, and Oni-san, right? Tayuya grumbled as she moved about collecting her things. Better than Otu-san, and Okawa-san. Kid's old enough to be my kid brother now. Naruto started packing his things, rolling up the blankets and the futon. Yeah, Ba-chan pretty much forbid him to use the Tenseigan again until he can handle it without it aging him again. Pervy Sage said he'd put him through some extreme chakra exercises once we're far enough out. What about making his reserves bigger? She asked. That'd help a whole hell of a lot. That's what I said, but he said, control first, deepening later. Naruto sighed as he shouldered his pack. He wants to make sure that Remara can control the flow of chakra he has to channel into his eyes before he helps fill up his reserves. Makes sense, turn around, she said, and started untying her belt. Naruto blushed and did as she asked. So, where are we going next? He heard her ask. Suna, Naruto said quickly, hoping he didn't sound too nervous, and smiled. I can't wait to see Gaara again. And Temari and that makeup-wearing brother of theirs. PFF'd, Tayuya sputtered, can't imagine I'm gonna make a lot of friends there. It was a fucking Suna bitch that put me under those trees. That was Temari, Naruto sighed, and don't worry about that, you've got me and Pervy Sage looking out for you, remember? He chanced to look over his shoulder, catching a glimpse of her bare back for a moment before whipping back around. If I say you're our friend, then they won't hurt you. Tayuya slipped on a fresh top and tied the belt, giving him a small smile that he couldn't see. Thanks. But you know that I can take care of myself, right? She grinned and tapped him on the shoulder, telling he could turn around. If that sand bitch tries anything this time, I'll give her a taste of my Onodoro. Besides, I could use a little payback. She gave him a little wink. Meanwhile Konohagakure no Sato X. Achoo. Gross, Shikamaru sighed as he walked his, unknown to most, favorite blonde through the village. Temari, if you give me a cold, then you're gonna have to find yourself a new escort. We Naras have very poor immune systems. Temari smirked at him. Translation, Nara men will take any opportunity they can get to be as lazy as they want, be it illness or not. She giggled at the Nara boy's scowl. Oh, come off it, that's as true as the fact that my brother wears make you war paint. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Whatever, it's too troublesome to explain it. Anyway, what brings you here this time? More documents for the Hokage. Temari shrugged. No idea, all I know is that Baki-sensei said that a few more things needed to be hammered out between us, and the peace treaty would finally be in full swing, which means we'll be less likely to see each other. Shikamaru finished on a sigh, unless one of us becomes the village ambassador. Placing her hands behind her back, Temari nodded. Yeah, you got it. So, I take it that that kind of job is too troublesome. She gave him a cheeky look. Shikamaru scoffed. It's just a bunch of paperwork, traveling, and knowing how to kiss the right asses. Temari laughed outright at that, seeing that he was right, in all prospects of the job. Shikamaru smiled at her. See, I can do the job if I get my Jonin promotion. I just need someone to submit my application. Temari bumped into him with her shoulder. You know, you could get that promotion on your own if you wanted. She grinned. You're just too lazy to do it. Troublesome woman. He grinned back, and stopped, as they were in front of the Hokage mansion. Well, I guess this is where I wait. See you tonight, Temari asked hopefully. Shikamaru smirked, it'd be troublesome for me not to be here. Temari grumbled a moment, then gained a smirk of her own, reaching up on her toes and pecking him on the cheek, making the young Nara blush heavily. Good, I'll see you tonight at my hotel. We can have dinner in the lobby. Temari darted up the steps and inside, not giving Shikamaru any time to recover. As for the Nara heir, he simply stood there, stiff as the proverbial board. He reached up and touched the cheek she had kissed, looking after the young woman. Tu-san was right, women are way too troublesome. But damn do they know how to turn things around. As Temari knocked on the door, she heard a loud scuffle from the inside of the room of the Hokage's office, a yelp, and a curse, then a loud thud. She raised her eyebrow in question as the door came open, revealing a harassed-looking Kakashi, and, sitting on the couch in her usual pose, a clearly agitated Mitarashi Anko. Ah, Temari-san, what a pleasant surprise. Kakashi said hurriedly. The copy nin was the last person she expected to greet her. Is the Hokage in? I have the finalized documents from the council about the treaty. Anko snickered, you're looking at the Hokage, sweet cheeks, Tsunade's out of the village. Temari's eyebrows nearly shot off the top of her head, she made you Hokage. And threatened to ban his Ika books if he refused, Anko laughed. Kakashi stepped aside to allow her entry, don't remind me, Anko-san. He returned to his desk while Temari stepped inside, setting a folder she'd been holding under her arm on the desk in front of him. Kakashi smiled under his mask, and opened the folder. As he read, a smile wider than his previous one filled his mask. He looked up at Temari with his usual eye smile, do you know what these are, Temari-san? Much like a puppy would, Temari cocked her head to the side in confusion, sorry, but no. I'm just the delivery person this time. I see, he chuckled, replacing the documents in the folder, well, I think that it's safe to say that everything is in order. The treaty is set. Temari beamed at him, now, I'd say, after your long walk here, you've earned a long respite. I'm sending a messenger hawk to the Sand Village, letting them know that I've given you permission to stay a few days in the company of a guard should anyone decide it wise to attack you. In that time, I hope you enjoy your stay. That's very generous of you. Hokage-sama. No offense, but I don't think I'll ever be used to calling you that, Kakashi-san. Temari blushed slightly, though most of it was at the thought of staying in the village for a time. Oh, I completely understand, Kakashi said, smiling again, now, off you go, wouldn't want you to spend your little vacation here, would we? Temari nodded and was out the door faster than Anko could say dango. Anko looked back at the acting Hokage, okay, what was on the file? Nothing's gotten you that happy in a week. Kakashi leaned back in his seat, completely at ease, oh, let's just say that Baki-san and the Suna Council came up with a fine idea to cement our relations. Anko got up from the couch and sauntered to the door, and Kakashi felt a bit of dread run up his back as she locked the door. Well, if you don't want to tell me, she said in a purr, looking back over her shoulder at him, I guess I'll have to resort to drastic means. Drastic means. Kakashi stammered, beginning to sweat, now Anko-san, we've been through this, while I'll admit that I've enjoyed, the office is totally off limits. Off came Anko's coat, you didn't seem to mind 10 minutes ago. Not everyone in this village is nice enough to knock. =X=AN, poor Kakashi. Some weeks later found a troop of 4 crossing the borders of Kiri back into Konoha territory. This troop was none other than Jiraiya, and his apprentices. Except now he had 3 instead of 2. Young Remara was trailing behind Naruto and Tayuya at a slower pace, his legs still getting used to being able to move properly. They were well out of Kiri domain, and there was little chance that anyone from the village coming for Naruto's blades. Konoha was still jumpy from the failed invasion by Oto, and had border patrols all over the place, even here, where it seemed to be more remote than any part of its territory. This was where everything would start over again, as Jiraiya came into a clearing by a small lake. This is a likely spot to start training again, he said, smiling at the trio. Alright, what we're going to do, well, you're all going to go through hell. We've already done that, Naruto said, remember when you tied me up in that tree? This is going to be worse, the Sannin smirked, because you're going to through the true Uzumaki training regiment. Naruto paled when he remembered what that entailed. Got 2 boulders instead of 1. I'm outta here. Naruto roared and whipped around in fear. Kuchios. No sooner had the blonde reached the tree line, than a large wet tongue wrapped around his middle and hauled him back. Gamma was croaking out a laugh as he reeled the boy in. Thank you, Gamma-san. Jiraiya grinned. Now, as for Renmara-chan, you'll be going through some basic chakra exercises. As a start, then we'll work you into some more intense training to expand your chakra reserves. He said, patting the boy on the head. Hi, sensei. The boy smiled. Tayuya-chan, the redhead jolted, you're going to be right there beside Naruto. Fuck me. Like Naruto, she turned tail and tried to run, but, since she was close to Jiraiya, he simply reached out and grabbed her by the back of her kimono top. Oh, you ain't going nowhere, Jiraiya said in a sinister tone. I promised that you'd go through a hellish training program, and that's what you're going to get. Welcome to Jiraiya's badass boot camp. I want my mother. Tayuya howled. Gamma-san, let me out. Naruto yelled from inside Gamma's mouth. For some reason the toad had seen fit to pull him all the way in. Renmara smiled. This sounds like fun. That brat has no idea what he's getting into, said a certain fox as he enjoyed his cantainer's misery. 12. The wind rises. It was just another quiet day in Konoha when Tsunade and her ragtag team entered the gates, greeted by Izumo and Katetsu. As usual, welcome back, Tsunade-sama. Izumo smiled. Did everything go alright? Tsunade offered the man a smile, as well as can be expected when Jiraiya and Naruto are involved. How are things here since I left Kakashi in charge? Katetsu snickered. Oh, he's been running things smoothly alright, but that doesn't mean he's kept out of trouble. Yeah, Izumo grinned. Anko-san's been seen dragging him back to the office more times than I can count, and the council members always seem to be chasing him for some reason or another. Before she could say anything to that, Neji walked up beside her. Hokage-sama, would it be alright for me to return to the compound? Stop right there, young man, Tsunade barked with a glare. I know exactly what you want to run and tell Hiashi, and it is as of this moment an S-rank secret. You remember what I told you would happen if this leaked out. Neji looked discouraged for a moment, but this needs to be reported. No matter how much I dislike the ways of my clan, it's my duty. Tsunade raised a brow at the boy, a little surprised that he would suggest going against her orders, even for a moment, but... Alright, then, you will only tell that you encountered a member of Raiga's gang that had that ability, and that he fled the battle after Raiga was bested by one of our shinobi. Under no circumstances are you to mention his name, his age, or what he may look like. Understood. I understand, it will be difficult to lie, but I think I am able to do it. Neji said, if I can keep my chakra from fluctuating too much, it'll simply look like I've just overexerted myself on the mission. Tsunade nodded. Good, remember what could happen to him if word of his abilities got out. Renmara's Byakugan alone was far more powerful than any she'd ever seen. Unlike the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan, who had a blind spot that not many knew about just behind the left shoulder, where their heart was, Renmara didn't have that blind spot. Neji had tested that thoroughly. In the light spars they had engaged in as Neji sought to teach him what he could, the strikes he'd sent toward that one spot had been blocked with almost practiced ease. It had surprised them both when Renmara had done this, which was why Neji had pushed so much for the boy to return with them, in vain as it proved since he seemed to cling to Naruto and Tayuya. Gang Wei. The group turned toward the loud voices. One Kiba Inuzuka came barreling down the streets with what looked like a giant boulder right behind him. I said I was sorry, Choji. Who cares? Yelled the boulder, now identified as Choji Akamaiki, Chubby's rule. Bark asterisk. Right behind the two teens was an equally boisterous Akamaru, looking just a little bigger than when last they had seen the young Ninken. Sakura giggled as the pair passed them. Looks like Kiba broke the taboo. You'd think he'd learn his lesson, Tenten sighed, palming her face. Never call an Akamaiki remotely fat, or chubby. Lee looked after the pair with a raised brow. It is most youthful to see them getting along, but very unyouthful of Kiba to hurt his friend's feelings like that. Inuzuka are rarely considerate of others, Neji said, his normal attitude returning, and it would seem that Kiba is no different. I do not care for how he leers at Hinata-sama either. Tsunade rolled her eyes. Come along, you may all return to your homes and rest. Sakura, come with me to the tower, please. Yes, ma'am, the genin said, the rosette following after the blonde. Meanwhile, with today's pair equals. Temari sighed in depression, not because she'd had a bad stay, far from it, but because today she had to return home. Her week was up, and, much to her surprise, Shikamaru had been by her side the entire time. Not that she was complaining. The night they'd had dinner at her hotel was nice, he'd even brought flowers for her, and they had been her favorite, desert lilies. They reminded her of home for a moment that it brought a small bit of moisture to her eyes. The result of that little. She hesitated to call it a date, but the result had been far more than what she'd expected. He'd walked her up to her room, and leaned in to kiss her cheek, but a moment of thought changed that when she turned her head ever so slightly so that her lips were right in his path. Temari had never, ever had the opportunity to kiss someone, let alone a boy, yet when their lips met, she felt like she was going to melt. Shikamaru had held her tight and deepened the kiss, pressing her up against the wall as things became heated between them. It was the first time that she had seen the young Nara be so bold around her. And she wasn't sorry. His hands didn't wander, however, and she was grateful for that. It wouldn't do for the man she had interest in to be a pervert. When they broke apart, she found herself actually considering inviting him in for the night. A thought that she later berated herself for. Of course, she had put all that down to her teenage hormones, because Shikamaru had backed off right away when he realized just what the hell had happened, and was blushing furiously. It was a sight that Temari wouldn't soon forget. Now, however, she was dreading the end of the day. And Shikamaru wasn't around for once. Where is he? She wondered aloud. With things cooling down between our villages, it won't be long until I won't see him for a while. Meanwhile, said Nara was currently standing in the Hokage's office with the still-acting Hokage. And he was not happy at all. You're seriously just telling me this now? The boy snapped. Kakashi merely smiled at him with his eye. Well, I thought that your little fling with her was much more than that, but it seems that, perhaps, I was wrong if this is your reaction, Kakashi said. You don't seem all that upset about the situation, even though I've heard that you've been by her side for the whole week she's been here. He said, recalling a particular encounter reported to him by the Anbu he'd had shadowing the young woman in her escort. But, perhaps you do care about her enough to fight for her. She doesn't need me to fight for her, Shikamaru snapped, finally growing angry. Believe me, if she heard about this, then she'd rip you to shreds with her fan. Kakashi chuckled, but she would see the logic in Tsunade's choice, and they've been quite generous in the affair, seeing as they are allowing her to choose in the long run. Most villages would simply pair a couple up and be done with it. But since she is the daughter of a Kage, she has her pick of any of our young men in the village. Enko nodded in agreement, but you know it has to be one of the clan heirs, well, unless you count Neji. He's from the branch family. He's in direct relation with Hiyashi-san, Kakashi pointed out, very close, actually. He's his nephew. But she has a point, out of all the clans, there are 5 young men that fit the bill, and you happen to be one of them, aren't you lucky? Shikamaru sneered, and what do you expect me to do? Run out to sweep her off her feet like some gallant prince? He shook his head at the very thought of it. That's not me. Do I look like I can do that sort of thing? We've barely just. Again he shook his head as memories of their date flashed through his mind, making him blush. Oh. Kakashi smirked, and just how far have you gone with the Tsunaheim? That's none of your business. Shikamaru snapped, Kami, I hate this. What gave you guys the rights to interfere with our lives like this? The fact that Tsuna wants to bury the hatchet with something substantial. Kakashi said, resting his chin on his laced fingers, and there is nothing more substantial than an arranged marriage between clan heirs or a pair of high-ranking shinobi. Here, we have both. You are a clan heir, and she is a rising kunoichi in her village. That doesn't make it right. Shikamaru roared. Enko snickered, well, Kakashi, looks like we've got our answer from this one. He obviously doesn't wanna get involved with her. She said, pushing off from her spot on the desk, guess I'll go get Kiba and see if that little horn dog wants to G. Shikamaru's fists came crashing down on the desk, making the wood creak in protest, like hell. So you want to be the one? Kakashi asked playfully, enjoying the boy's reaction. No. The boy growled, what I want is for her to choose me on her own. Not because of some damned arranged marriage. Kakashi nodded his understanding. Then you have your answer. And it couldn't be better. He said, much to the confusion of the boy, listen Shikamaru, I once lost someone I loved dearly, and it's haunted me to this day. Though you may not be in the same situation as I was, you stand to lose just as much. Because one way or another, Temari will have to choose someone before she comes of age in the next 3 years, and honestly, I'd rather see her marry the one she loves rather than be forced to choose purely based on clan status. And you cannot deny your feelings for the girl, it's as plain as the nose on your face. But we haven't known each other long enough. Love can take time, Kakashi said, nodding again, but it can also take a single look between two people, and there it is. So, whether it takes that one glance, or years, it happens, and it has happened to you too, whether you believe me or not. Temari's leaving soon, Enko said, and when she gets back to Suna, she'll find out about this whole thing, and probably get mad at you for not speaking up. Then she'll probably choose someone else out of spite. She's not spiteful, Shikamaru growled. Then get going, Kakashi smirked under his mask, it'd be best for you to catch her before she leaves, but I'll give you permission to leave the village to catch up with her. Shikamaru was going to do just that, that is until the door opened, and Shizune walked in. Kakashi-san, Temari-san wanted me to tell you she's leaving now, and to thank you for THI. The poor woman was nearly knocked to the ground by a speeding Nara rushing past her. What was that about? Kakashi chuckled, oh, that was just a little boy just taking his first steps into manhood, he said, smiling behind his mask. On a different note, how's Iruka doing? Shizune blushed at the question, catching her completely off guard. Enko snickered again, whoops, looks like she's caught. I am not. X equals. Damn it, where'd she go? Shikamaru growled as he raced through the village, she couldn't have left already. He rounded a corner and slammed into someone. Shit, ow, watch where you're going. Kiba growled, rubbing his head, and looked up, what the? Shikamaru. Sorry, Kiba, the Chunin said, dusting himself off, you didn't see Temari around here, did you? Kiba shook his head, nah, man, I've been trying to get away from the room. Aw shit. Kiba scrambled to his feet, see ya, Shika. Yippee-ki-yay motherfucker. Roared a larger rolling boulder as it gave chase. Choji, cool it, Shikamaru yelled after his longtime friend. He then got to his feet and continued his search, hoping he'd catch her in time. X equals. Leaving so soon, Temari-san? Izumo asked as the Suna Kunoichi approached them, thought you might stay a little longer. Temari smiled at the pair, no, I need to get home. It's already been a week, and I feel like you guys are spoiling me with all the kindness you've shown me since the invasion. Ah, don't bring up old stuff like that. Katetsu smirked, besides, we all know that it wasn't your idea to attack us like that, and Orochimaru got sent packing with that scaly tail between his legs. Temari giggled, well, thank you all the same. If you see Shikamaru-kun. Kakashi called him to his office earlier today, Izumo said, sighing, but I just spoke with Tsunade-sama just a few minutes ago, so I bet it won't be long before he comes racing after you. If only, the girl thought. Thanks, but I really have to get going. I want to make sure that my brothers aren't causing Baki-sensei any trouble. Safe journey then, the pair said, waving as the girl set out. Aw, man, Shikamaru's gonna be pissed that Kakashi made him miss her. Izumo sighed. Yeah, you got that right, Katetsu said, but he probably doesn't care, after all, he's got that hot little snake to keep him company. He grinned, but with the way Enko is. I'm betting he's not always having fun. Think that's bad. Izumo smirked, wait till Tsunade-sama get through with them. Guys. The pair looked back down the street, seeing Shikamaru running toward them. Did Temari already leave? Yup, they said, pointing down the road at a small speck of black that was Temari, already moving fast. Shit. Again, surprising for any Nara, Shikamaru took off. Oi, Shikamaru, come back. Kakashi gave me permission, he yelled back at the two Chunin. Talk later. The two Chunin looked after the boy's retreating figure, then both of them burst out laughing. Oh, the wedding bells will ring. Ding dong ding. Wahaha. Shut up. Shikamaru roared over his shoulder, having overheard them. Temari was moving at a slow pace, considering how eager she was to get home, but she still felt bad about leaving without telling Shikamaru anything before. But seeing as he was in a meeting with the Hokage, there was little she could do about it, and she hated goodbyes anyway. And the pleasant way things had been going, well, she knew that it would have been a long goodbye. Still, she sighed in thought, it would have been nice to see him again before I. Temari. She froze. Had she really heard that? She turned around slowly, feeling a presence behind her, and found a panting, sweating Shikamaru. Damn it, woman, what were you thinking? He gasped out, you just left without saying anything. Temari, a little miffed about his tone, placed her hands on her hips. Well, sorry, but I did wait for you, you lazy bum. 3 hours, and you never showed up, like you said you would. And then I found out you'd been summoned by the Hokage, so I figured it'd be better for both of us if I went ahead and left. Better? Shikamaru snapped incredulously, are you kidding? What gave you that idea? Of course I wanted to see you. Temari's expression softened, sorry. She said as Shikamaru recovered his breath, and came toward her, I really didn't thin mph. He grabbed her around the waist and brought her in for a kiss. Surprised by the sudden action, she struggled for a moment or two before she found herself molding herself against him and returning the kiss. They broke apart after a moment, both breathing harder than usual as Temari gave him a smile. Wow, where did that come from? Dunno, Shikamaru said, guess I just didn't want you to leave, yet. Temari smirked and nuzzled against his neck, you know I can't stay away for long, and this is the longest I've ever been away, except for the Chunin exams. About that, Shikamaru said, scratching his cheek nervously, the reason Kakashi called me was, well, that document you delivered last week. What about it? Temari asked, becoming worried. Kakashi seemed to like what it said. Well, he did, but that's not the point, Shikamaru said, that was an arranged marriage proposal. Temari looked up at him in shock. And? Who was the intended? You were, Shikamaru said. X equals. Think he caught up to her yet? Izumo asked. Beats. What? Both Chunin looked down the road from which the shout had originated, both grinning. He found her. X equals. When I get my hands on sensei, I'll stutter at him, Shikamaru suggested, earning a glare. Look, Temari, it's not as bad as you think. Isn't it? She snapped, I'm being forced to marry someone. How is that not as bad? You get to choose. He shrugged. Temari stopped her raging for a moment, come again. Shikamaru sighed, look, it's like this, he said, holding up 5 fingers, there's 5 male clan heirs about your age that you could choose between. Myself, Kiba Inuzuka, Choji Akamaiki, Shino Aburame, and Neji Hyuga, though he's not an heir, but he is from a strong clan. They're letting you choose your future husband. Temari grumbled, that still doesn't make it right for them not to run this by me first. She huffed as she crossed her arms, I can see the political side of all this, but they went behind my back and did all this before consulting me about what I might say. Shikamaru smirked slightly, probably because they knew you'd go ballistic. Yay, that I can believe, Temari sighed, now I'm gonna have 4 more guys bothering me whenever I come around. No, you won't, Shikamaru said, Kakashi didn't tell the others, and he only told me today, since you were probably going to find out when you got home. Anyway, and said he'd noticed how much time we'd been spending together. Apparently he wants me to be your choice, but if you wanna check out the other guys, I understand. Shikamaru said with a grimace, but, look, I'm not really that good with this sort of thing. Temari groaned, and smacked him on the shoulder, can't you just come out and say you like me like a normal guy would? Shikamaru blushed, I kinda thought that kiss said it all. Temari blushed, and snorted, giving him a playful shove, oh, don't get so cocky, lazy ass, because you are not as charming as you think you are. Shikamaru laughed along with her, watching her teal eyes dance with mirth and hidden mischief, so, what does this make us? Shikamaru shrugged, well, not that I mind, but the decision's all up to you. He grinned as she pouted at him, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna let Kiba's horny ass around you anytime soon, though. As long as you want me around, I'm here for you. Temari smiled, lacing her hands around the back of his neck, good answer, Shika-kun. She gave him a quick peck on the lips before pulling away from him, and I don't mind calling you my boyfriend, short as it was, we get along, sorta, and your mom's really nice, even if your dad seems a little scared of her. You don't know the half of it. Shikamaru shivered, remembering a particular frying pan that had missed his father's head, and clanged right against his own. He still had a lump there. Temari giggled, I really have to go, now. But I'll see you soon. Every chance we get, Shikamaru smiled, stay out of trouble. That's my line, you lazy bum, Temari said before turning away, bye. Bye. X equals. Well, that went better than I'd hoped, Kakashi said to Tsunade as they watched the pair through the Sandame's old crystal ball. At least she didn't come flying back here and rip me a new one. Tsunade chuckled, oh, I know how you feel. These political marriages are really fragile at times. It's lucky these two were already involved. You handled it very well, Kakashi-san. Just a matter of slight manipulation, calculation, and no small amount of luck, Kakashi said, smiling, at least we kept Kiba out of it. But remind to have a talk with Choji about the temper of his. Where are those two anyway? They should have been here hours ago. See how it feels. Enko sneered, and Choji's still rolling after Kiba. He really should have known better about insulting him like that. Mommy. I'm not fat, just big boned. Crash. Kakashi and Tsunade dropped their heads. Why do I get the feeling that we're gonna get billed by the civilians? Welcome to my world, Tsunade sighed. Let's get started on the paperwork. 13. Run. A Hyuga's revenge. Yahahaha. Run, ya little bastards, run. Jiraiya roared gleefully, fear the power of the Gamma Sennin. Tayuya yelped as she ducked out of the way of a weak Rasengan aimed her way when the Sannin came too close for comfort. Are you fucking crazy? She tossed a kunai at him, which, for her, was well aimed for once, but Jiraiya just grinned and caught it in his teeth, with a ridiculous expression. Ha ha ha. Saintwike. Yes, he's making the same face as he did when Naruto threw that ball at him while learning the Rasengan. Tayuya's eye twitched violently, this would so fucking funny if you weren't trying to kill me right now, you know that. Jiraiya twirled the kunai around his finger, now how are you supposed to take this combat training seriously if I'm not going full throttle with you and Naruto? He asked with a smirk, I'm betting he's at least doing better with my other clone. Boom. Cowabunga. Said Blonde yelled as he was propelled between them in the forest, gaining a sweat drop from both of them. Jiraiya's second clone appeared on the scene with a huge grin on his face. How's your day going? He asked. Not bad, the other clone said, jerking his thumb at the downed Blonde, who was in a smoking heap at the base of a tree he'd hit. What happened to him? Tried that exploding clone on me like last time, he smirked, tch, like that'd work a second time. Rookies, Tayuya's Jiraiya said with a roll of his eyes. All the while, said Redhead was slowly inching away from the dangerous clones. And just where do you think you're going, Tayuya-chan? Tayuya stiffened and turned almost mechanically. I gotta make a call. What kinda call? Both clones asked. This kind, she grinned before she scrabbled away, help me. Get back here. Oh Naruto tilde. Naruto woke up in a cold sweat when his Jiraiya clone called him, time for more training. Just kill me now. He groaned as the clone grabbed him by the back of his Hyori, wonder how Renmara's doing. Renmara, to say the least, was faring better than his friends were, as in he was in one piece for the time being. Jiraiya-sensei, are you sure I'm doing this right? The boy asked as he balanced on the surface of the lake, it still feels strange. That's just the feeling of the chakra flowing to the bottom of your feet, Jiraiya said from the shore, a fishing pole in hand. It tickles a little, so it's a little more difficult than the tree climbing exercises you went through a few days ago. But I had a really hard time with that, Renmara said, almost whining as he recalled all the lumps he'd gotten on his head when he fell. And I can't swim. Don't worry, Ran-chan, you're doing really good so far, he told the boy as he cast out. And I'll be here to help if you fall in. Tayuya-chan would murder me if something happened to you. Sensei, what are we gonna do about my Byakugan? Renmara yelped as he tried to keep his balance, his feet falling under the surface from time to time. Neji-sensei said he could teach me more, but I didn't want to leave Oni-chan and Oni-chan. Jiraiya hummed in thought for a moment. Neji certainly was a good teacher, but he had his own duties in the village and his team. But tell you what, I'll send a message to Tsunade Heim and ask her to send him out here so he can teach you a little more about the Juken. Right about now, it'd probably help him out. Really? Whoa. Splash. Oops, Jiraiya strolled out onto the water where Remara was floundering to stay afloat. He picked the boy up by his robes and hoisted him out. We really need to work on your focus, Ran-chan, you know that. Hey, Remara bumped himself on the head slightly, sorry. Somebody catch me. Both shinobi looked up to see Tayuya careening toward them from above them. Jiraiya reached out and grabbed her before she hit the water. What the hell happened to you? Tayuya scowled at him. You oughta know, you're the one that threw me. Oh, Jiraiya smirked, sorry about that. No you're not, Tayuya pouted, slumping over, why the hell couldn't I find a sensei that was normal? Jiraiya laughed loudly, before. BTOOOOM. Tayuya looked up, what the fuck was that? Jiraiya winced, that, my dear, was Naruto finally getting the better of my clone. He said, wincing again from the clone's memories, gad. When that kid wants to blow shit up, he doesn't mess around. Tayuya sighed, I really need to get him to teach me that. She said, my Onodoro explosions would be so much better. Remara laughed, when can I? Cannon BAAAAAAAALL. Splash. They were all showered with water as a blonde blur crashed into the water leaving a smoking trail in his wake. Naruto's head popped out of the water, looking thoroughly satisfied, now that's what I call a nice kaboom. Jiraiya sighed, a kid, a loudmouth, and a pyromaniac, some team this is. Who's the loudmouth? Tayuya asked. Remara, Naruto and Jiraiya all looked at her. Tayuya growled, fuck all of you. I'm not that bad. Equals nearby equals. Are you sure this is the right person? Asked a woman, he's just a kid. No doubt about it, said a man next to her, young, dark-haired, and traveling with Jiraiya of the Sannin, this is definitely the right one. He said, sneering, we get him, and the Raikage will reward us big time. The woman next to him sighed, too bad he's so young, though. If he was a bit older, then I could have extracted a few samples. The man nearly laughed at her, since when has that stopped you? She huffed at him, I'll have you know, Jin, I do have morals, and fucking a gaki that young happens to be taboo for me. Even if he is who you say he is. Jin smirked at that, you're right, I guess. Kid's so young that his balls probably ain't dropped yet. So, we just take him. The woman scowled, and just how do you propose we do that? She asked, he's being protected by that old man down there, and we both know how strong that one is. Jin gave her a thin smile, that, my dear, you will leave to me. X equals. Neji was currently training in the courtyards of the Hyuga compound overseen by Hiyashi Hyuga himself. His nephew, since his defeat in the Chunin exams, had come a long way. He no longer hated the main branch, at least not as much, and supported Hinata as the next clan head, seeing that she would bring about change, should she reach the position. But it didn't take the all-seeing eyes of the Hyuga clan to see that something was off about the boy today. Neji-kun, you're off balance. He said to the boy, is something wrong? Neji nearly tripped, a strange thing for him, but he had yet to tell Hiyashi anything of the mission he'd just returned from, which he was grateful for the fact that he hadn't inquired about it, but keeping a secret like this, especially when their clan's Kekkei Genkei was no longer within the clan, was weighing heavy on him. But not as much as what would most likely happen to the boy if anyone from his clan, the elders especially, found out. Neji sighed and dropped out of his stance. No, it's nothing, Oji-sama, I'm merely still fatigued from my mission earlier this week. Hiyashi nodded, understandable, seeing as you were requested to accompany the Hokage, I would expect whatever happened is quite impressive. He noticed Neji flinch, even as slight as it was, and felt a small flux in his chakra. Neji, is there something you wish to tell me? My mission was classified as S rank, and the details are also as such, Neji immediately said, I'm afraid I can't tell you anything, sir. Hiyashi regarded the boy, then smiled, I will not ask. If the mission affected the clan in any way, I'm sure you would have told me at once, secret or not. Neji nodded, and the facts of the mission didn't affect the clan, not really. But when Remara returned to the village, Hiyashi-sama, Ko-Hyuga said as he came onto the ground, the Hokage has requested Neji-kun for a special mission outside the village. He is needed at the mansion at once for a briefing. Hiyashi nodded to the man, then looked at his nephew, you'd better get going. There's no telling what it is this time. Yes, sir, Neji gave him a bow, and hurried out of the compound. Hiyashi gave a slight smile. He's getting better. It won't be long until he surpasses me. Perhaps he'd be able to win his freedom from the elders. He looked up at the clouds. Can you see him? Oni-san, your son is turning into a fine young shinobi. == I'm glad to hear their training is going so well at the moment, Tsunade said to Gamakichi while they waited for Neji. It's surprising that Remara's already taken to the chakra exercises so well. Is Naruto doing well? Hehe, from the look of him, Jiraiya's putting him through a shredder, the young toad said. I'm tellin' ya, him and Tayuya looked like they'd just gotten hit with a couple dozen fireballs from Pops. Tsunade almost laughed at that. I wish I could see that, she said, smiling. Naruto's already grown stronger because of this mission, and it's only been about 3 months. Yeah, Pops said by time it's all over, Jiraiya's supposed to bring Naruto to see Gramps at home. Gamakichi said, scratching his head, not so sure what that means, but it's gonna be great to have bro come over to my place finally. Tsunade raised her brow at this. A human entering the home of a summoned spirit meant one thing and one thing only. So, that's his plan, she thought, thinking of how long Jiraiya had taken to complete his training. But he said no more than 3 years, that's roughly how long it took for Jiraiya to complete the training under the toads. How is Naruto going to complete if in such a short amount of time? A knock at her door brought her out of her musings. Hokage-sama, it's Neji, I believe you requested to see me. Yes, come in, Neji-kun, she said, and the door was opened and the young Hyuga stepped in. I'm glad you came so quickly. Neji bowed. Of course, Ko-san said it was of the utmost importance that I come at once. Tsunade grinned. Not quite as important as that. I've just gotten a message from Jiraiya asking for your help in Remara's training. She said, much to the boy's surprise. It's only natural seeing as the boy has the Byakugan, and you were requested. Apparently his training in expanding his chakra reserves is going well enough that Jiraiya thinks he could use Kaden with a little work. That is impressive, Neji said, but are you sure that I'm suited for this? I mean that I know the basics, and all he would need to know, but teaching him. Jiraiya requested you and you only, Tsunade clarified. He wants to keep Remara's eyes a secret as long as possible until their return to the village, and since you already know, you're the best we have, like it or not. I see, Neji nodded, that makes sense. Alright, when do I leave? Gamakichi laughed, you'll be comin' with me. What? The little toad hopped off the desk and onto Neji's shoulder. Hope ya don't get motion sick. Hold it. Tsunade yelled as Gamakichi prepared to leave. You need to know that this counts as an A rank, and as compensation for your time, however long it takes, I'll be promoting you to Chunin when you return. Really? Neji was surprised. Why such a? Because, I think you'll more than earn it on this mission, Tsunade said with a small smile. Remara's come so far in just under a month of training, and it's only been 3 months since they left the village. If you agree to train him, I'll consider it a service to the Sannin, worthy of a promotion to Chunin. Oi, can we get going already? Gamakichi asked. I promised Pops I'd be back in an hour. Neji looked at the toad perched on his shoulder nervously. What, exactly, are you doing there? Gamakichi smirked. Hang to your lunch, bub, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. The Hyuga and toad vanished in a puff of smoke, with said Hyuga looking horrified. I hate this training, Tayuya groaned that evening as they sat around the campfire. My legs feel like they've been shattered again. She stretched her legs out in front of her and fell backwards onto her bedroll. Naruto grumbled, plucking at the ruined Hyori he wore. Man, I knew I should have bought some different clothes. I was starting to like these. Jiraiya huffed at him from where he was stirring a pot of stew for their meal. It's your own damn fault for being too close to those clones when they exploded, and you put way too much power into them. He said, if there was anyone around for 40 miles, then they definitely heard that racket. Remara, who was tending to a surprisingly passed-out Hyuga that had arrived earlier that day via summoning, thanks to Gamakichi, just smiled, but it's a good thing, right? Raiga-san always said that pain after training was a good pain. I hate toads. Neji muttered, causing Jiraiya to snicker, while both older teens laughed. 1 week later. That's good, Remara-kun, but keep your guard up, Neji cautioned his student as Remara dropped back into the basic Jukin stance. Remember, Keeping your guard up gives less opportunities for someone to break your balance, that is the main key to any Juken user. Guard and balance. Lose your balance, and you fall prey to whatever the enemy may have up their sleeve. Yes, sensei, the boy panted. Neji gave the boy a smile. Alright, now try again. Remara nodded and activated his Byakugan, Hake Sanjuni Sho. The boy darted forward, quick and nimble, homing in on the Tenketsu in Neji's body, 2. He struck hard, forcing Neji back, 4. Neji coughed as his points began to close, 8. 16. 32. Neji was thrown back, tumbling over onto his back, a groan escaping him. Sensei. Neji waved him off with a slightly proud smile. I'm alright, Renmara-kun, but that was perfect. You've closed off all of my Tenketsu effectively. If you'd used the advanced Juken, then you would have gravely injured me for sure. Renmara did not, however, look pleased. While training the boy, Neji found him to be a gentle soul, almost like his cousin, Hinata, but he was far more outspoken than she was. He didn't care for injuring someone he was close to, let alone a teacher. Naruto, who was watching from the sidelines while working on a seal, clapped his hands. That was pretty good, Renmara. I think if Neji defended himself, I'd say you'd land a hit on him. Neji scowled at him as he got to his feet. Don't blow it out of proportion. That was nothing compared to Oji-sama's strikes. He told the blonde prankster, by the way, would you lend me your clones? I want to show Renmara the third stage palm technique. Naruto nodded, sure, how many do you need? 128, please, Neji said politely, and make sure they have equal chakra, if you don't mind. Coming right up, he grinned and made the necessary hand seals, Taiju Kage Bushin no Jutsu. This was the scene that Jiraiya and Tayuya marched in on from their foraging trip, the sight of Neji surrounded by Naruto's clones, and the stoic Hyuga dropping into his Juken stance. What the? Stand clear, Renmara-kun, he told the boy, who scurried away from the impending brawl. Now, Hake Hyaku Nuhachi Sho. The clones rushed him, and Neji was a blur of motion, barely visible to Tayuya's eyes as he struck the clones blow for blow, not one hit landing on him as he whipped around in the most advanced stage of the Juken. Renmara was stunned, he couldn't even follow his sensei as he moved. Renmara knew that he was far below Neji's level, but to see this. The last of Naruto's clone was destroyed, and the real one was shaking from the phantom pain that the clones had felt. Kami be damned, Neji. Naruto roared at his friend, that nearly killed me. There is no possible way that you can die from the backlash of shadow clones, Naruto, Neji said smugly, but consider it even compensation for that sore jaw you gave me a few months ago. Weakness of the Hyuga clan, Naruto said sarcastically, the dreaded, glass jaw. Laugh it up, Neji said, I'm still going to be a Jonin before you, he grinned, unable to resist the jab. I became a Chunin before you did, Genius-sama, Naruto shot back while sticking out his tongue, which succeeded in shutting the Hyuga up for a time. Jiraiya couldn't help but laugh. Alright you two, save it for the honeymoon, it's time for. Jiraiya tensed, and ducked down to throw a kunai at a tall tree just above where Renmara had fled. A curse sounded from above him, and a platinum-haired shinobi leapt from the trees, throwing some sort of ball in Jiraiya's direction. The Sannin destroyed it with another kunai, but the result was not what he'd expected. Instead of a smoke bomb, a sickly purple mist exploded from the ball, and washed over him. Jiraiya barely had time to shove Tayuya out of the way before the poison got her as well. Naruto and Neji were in motion before the strange shinobi landed, both shooting toward him to attack. Renmara made to run toward Tayuya, but was stopped by someone grabbing the back of his robes and hauling him off the ground. Wah! Tayuya Onichan. Renmara. Tayuya roared, running in to help. But the person holding him held a kunai to his throat, stopping him. What the fuck do you guys want? Give Renmara back. Oh I think not, the shinobi, a woman, said, the Byakugan's finally in our hands, so there's no way we're letting it slip away again. Not after that failed attempt on the Hyuga clan's heir. Neji froze in place, looking at his opponents. You're from Kumo. Indeed, the man in front of him said, a thin smile on his face. You know, you resemble that fellow they sent to USA spitting image, in fact. Neji ground his teeth in anger. Oh my, what a coincidence. Looks like we have the man's progeny. He laughed, you know I was the one that did the autopsy on him. I was so surprised that he had the seal on his head that I smashed his face in. Neji bolted forward, ready to kill the man. But Naruto held him back. Naruto growled, stepping forward with his swords appearing in his hands, making the man's squinting eyes widen at the sight of the thunder swords. I don't care what you guys want. You tell your friend to let Remara go right now. Or what? The woman asked as she back into the forest. Jin, I'll leave the brats to you. I'll take the boy back to Kumo. Jin smiled again. Sounds like a plan. With the poison running through the old man's veins, he won't be a problem for at least a day. He said as Jiraiya struggled to stand, don't worry, it won't kill you. It's something we use to screw up the chakra systems of our Jinchuriki if they go wild on us. It makes them weak, and unable to use chakra for a time. The effect on normal people, more so. Neji glanced at Naruto, catching his attention and gesturing with his head toward the woman. The blonde nodded and took a step back. Jin saw it. Run, Naoko. Onodoro. Tayuya screamed, sending her demonic lanterns toward the tree line to cut off her escape, but the woman was far too fast for her, and got ahead of the flames. Shit, Naruto. Get back here. Naruto roared, barreling after her. Onichan. Remara yelled. For a moment, Naruto thought he was calling for help. But as the woman turned to the boy with a cruel grin on her face, Katsu. As Naruto passed into the trees, he failed to notice the ring of paper bombs stuck to the trees. Caught completely off guard, Naruto was thrown toward the lake, landing with a resounding splash. Naruto. Tayuya ran after him and dove into the water. You'll pay for that. Neji growled, rushing Jin, and ducking under the strike of his tanto, too slow. Neji said, and Jin saw the gleam in the boy's eyes. I'll make sure the Byakugan is the last thing you see. Hake Hyaku Nuhachi Sho. Jin was bombarded with the technique from earlier. Damn it. We underestimated this brat. They'd planned for everything, even the Hyuga, but he hadn't expected him to be faster than what they'd seen, especially for a genin. Jin fell to the ground, blood rising in his mouth, dead. Jiraiya-sama, are you alright? Neji made to run to him but the old Sennin waved him off. I'm fine. He roared, go get Remara. Neji nodded and raced off into the trees, his eyes blazing. I'm coming for you Remara, just hold on. X equals. Naruto found himself in a very familiar place. Water dripped all around him in the dark room as the Kyuubi's breathing woke him. Well, it seems you're in a bit of a bind, runt. Naruto groaned and got to his feet. It's nothing I can't handle. Why the hell did you call me in here? I've got things to do. Hehehehe, do you really think you can win on your own? The Kyuubi laughed. That was no ordinary shinobi. She was gifted with something more than just brains. I can sense it. She's way ahead of us. Naruto began to panic. Let me outta here, and let me get going. Renmara's in trouble, and Pervy Sage can't do anything right now. Oh, I will, but I thought I might offer my help first, the Kyuubi said, lowering his head to the boy's level. If I had to guess, then I'd say that female is using swift release to get ahead of you. Only you could catch up with her, and that's only using my power. You're offering me your chakra? Naruto asked, for free. No, I do want something in return, the fox said, change my prison into something more pleasant when you have the time, but for now, take my power and go. The red female is trying to swim you back to shore, now, so you should wake up soon. But take care, runt. If that woman reaches lightning territory, you may run into one of my siblings. Before Naruto could ask what that meant, he was flooded with the burning power of the Biju's chakra. 14. Red lightning. I growled under his breath at the news he'd just been given, and we're sure that the boy is right one. He asked, from what we've heard about him from our spies following. Raiga, the boy had a different dujutsu. Mabui nodded, flipping through the files on her clipboard. It is indeed the same boy, Raikage-sama, but it would seem the surviving spy reported that he saw the boy's eyes change into something else, and from the glow, he surmised it to be the Byakugan, and possibly a more advanced version. He wasn't sure as Tsunade of the Sannin was present, and he didn't want to risk being captured. I nodded, a smart move, and I'm sure Jin and Naoko's party is more than up to the task. Did you say that he was with one of the Sannin? Again Mabui flipped through her pages. Yes, it appears as though he's traveling under the protection of Jiraiya, the Gamma Sennin, along with 2 other apprentices in tow, one being a young Chunin resembling the Yondaime Hokage. I's interest was piqued at his. That's interesting. I suppose it's possible that he may have had a son, given how close he was to the Red Death. Right, that does it. I bellowed, causing the poor secretary to cover her ears. Almost immediately, there was a loud commotion outside as the hulking figure of the Raikage's sworn brother entered through the window. Yo, bro, your call shook the walls, ain't no need to be bustin' my elbow. B was dropped by a reverse elbow strike from his brother. How many times have I told you to knock of the rapping? Twitching, B groaned, ain't no test, bro's blows are the best. Ow. Mabui hid her smirk behind her board as the pair's antic threatened to make her laugh. Raikage-sama, why summon B-sama? Because I want him to go back up Naoko's team, I said as B got to his feet. If this Gaki's got an advanced Byakugan, then there's no way I'm letting it slip through our fingers again. Not even if the legendary Toad Sage gets in the way. B groaned, aw man, that old plan. Sheesh, dude, all this thieving's rude. Speak normally, B, I said. I didn't understand a word of that. I'm saying that I don't like this, B said, scratching the back of his head. If that kid's as strong as you think he is, then Konoha ain't gonna sit by and let the kid fly. I huffed, they wouldn't dare risk a war with us, not with the invasion leaving their village weak as it is. Mabui sighed, he may have a point, Raikage-sama, Konoha is not as weak as you may think it is. For once, I don't care, I said, if they deem the boy worthy enough to fight for, then so be it. Let them come. By the time they get here, maybe some of the willing women will be pregnant. B looked at his brother, dude, that's sick, the kid's just what, 5? 9, Mabui said, he's older than we thought. Good, I said, now, B, I know you don't like this, but this is an order. You don't have to harm the boy, just keep Jiraiya off Naoko's tail long enough for her to get here. They're a good 24 hours away if the message is anything to go on. Naoko-chan be quick as lightning. With her swift release, we won't have to worry in the least. Be that as it may, I'd rather you go and protect her as well. We don't have many swift users, and losing her would be a big blow for us. I said, smiling as he was about to dangle the proverbial carrot, and you might want to go anyway. Jin's message stated that one of Jiraiya's apprentices is in possession of the kiba that Raiga kept before he died. Now B's interest was piqued. Bro, you tellin' me that some lil babe's got the lighting blades? I slapped his brother on the shoulder. Go get him, B. You can count on me, we tilde. X equals. Neji ran as fast as he could to try and keep up with the kunoichi carrying his apprentice. But the kunoichi herself was far ahead of him, and gaining ground as she ran. Never in his life had he seen someone as fast as this woman. Coward. Neji shouted in an attempt to slow her. Will Kumo risk war with Konoha just for the Byakugan once again? The kunoichi looked back at the young Hyuga. What war? From what our sources say, this boy isn't even part of Konoha. She grinned from far ahead of him while Remara struggled. He's fair game to anyone that wants him. Neji cursed his speed, pushing as much chakra into his legs to propel himself forward. Suddenly though, he felt a blast of monstrous chakra washing over him, making him stagger. The Kumo kunoichi wasn't spared as the malicious chakra washed over her as well, pausing her flight as she turned back toward the source. Fear washed over her in her charge as Remara activated his Byakugan on instinct to seek out the chakra's source himself. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. The woman sneered, one of those rats was a Jinchuriki. What's a Jinchuriki? Remara asked. Naoko looked down at the boy who had stopped struggling to search for the irate source. Gaki, if Kumo's Jinchuriki are anything to go on, then you don't want to know. She said as she turned to flee, forming the boar sign, Jinten, Muisho. Neji, momentarily forgetting the chakra burst, cursed again as Naoko's form blurred. Damn it. Without another thought, he was in motion. X equals. Tayuya had hauled Naruto back onto the bank without a problem. But the moment she tried to revive him, his eyes shot open, red as blood, and slit like a cat's as a massive burst of chakra had come from him. Jiraiya, still down from the poison, looked up in shock as Naruto shot to his feet. Naruto, don't do it. What the? Jiraiya needn't have worry. Naruto re-summoned his blades, and shot off at blinding speeds in the direction Neji had chased the Kumo kunoichi. Wait, the old sage called after him, but Naruto was already long gone. Kami, damn it all. He growled and struggled to his feet. Tayuya, we need to go after them. If they're after Remara's eyes, then they'll have a larger force waiting to intercept them. He received no answer from her. He turned and saw that the girl was still rooted to the spot she had been when she pulled Naruto out of the water. She was staring off in the direction that her friend had gone. To Tayuya, Naruto looked at her for a fraction of a moment without the blue eyes she'd come to know and trust, but with red eyes slit like a cat's. His face, normally bright and smiling, was scowling in a feral snarl as he'd taken off after them. Gigi, what the fuck just happened? She stammered out, turning slowly to their sensei. That couldn't have been Naruto, right? He's never looked at me like that. Jiraiya sighed and rummaged through his pockets before producing a small bottle. I think you should sit down, Tayuya-chan. I've got some explaining to do. Shaking out of her daze, Tayuya moved over to him while he drank down the contents of the bottle in hand. Damn, Tsunade sure knows how to make this stuff taste nasty. He grimaced. Alright, Tayuya-chan, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to answer truthfully. What do you know of those that are called Jinchuriki? Tae blinked for a moment. That's what people call others that have a biju inside them, right? Jiraiya nodded. But what the hell does that? Oh, Kami, shitheads eh? Jinchuriki, Jiraiya finished. Does that change anything between you two? X equals. I thought I told you to hold still. Naoko snapped to the wriggling child. While well out of range of the young Hyuga, the Kumo Kunoichi was not keen to let that Jinchuriki get too close. Remara was doing his damnedest to get free of the woman's arms. I'm not going anywhere with you. Remara shouted, activating his Byakugan, and molding it into the Tenseigan. Naoko was stunned, but the boy never let her say another word. Kaden. Rotating his body rapidly, Remara ripped himself from her arms, much to the shock of the Jinten user. While using the Tenseigan, Remara and Neji had discovered a new chakra point. Unlike the others, this one was unique in the fact that it completely shut down the chakra system for hours on end, leaving the opponent weak, and virtually helpless against an experienced opponent. And it was located in the pit of the stomach, where the chakra well was located. Using a chakra-infused palm against the woman, taking her by surprise, Remara struck the point awkwardly, causing more damage than was needed, but it served the purpose. Naoko fell. Remara and the Kumo Kunoichi went tumbling from the trees where Remara did his best to right himself and take off toward his friends once more, but Naoko had enough strength left to give the boy a violent kick and sent him careening into the forest, crashing against the ground before she herself fell. Remara, young as he was fortunate not to witness the woman's fate as she fell, unable to right herself in time before she crashed, her neck at an awkward angle. The young Byakugan user, however, had the wind knocked out of him and staggered to his feet, holding his side as a blinding pain shot through him. My ribs. The boy's eyes changed back to their usual gray hues as he took in his surroundings. Naoko's body lay broken a few yards away, making him shiver and thankful that he had managed to come out of it slightly unscathed. They were far from camp, thanks to the swift user, and far from help. Remara activated his Byakugan once more and scanned the area, hoping to find someone nearby. He found what he was looking for, unfortunately. There were no Jiden users among them, but there were plenty of other reasons to worry. More to the point, none of them were his friends. Before Remara could hide himself, 20 or so Kumo shinobi landed in front of him. That's the kid, one of the men said. Those eyes are a dead giveaway. Another one laughed. No joke, look what he did to Naoko, he said, giving the corpse a small nudge with his foot, dead as a doornail. Well, if he's got the Byakugan, then he's gonna be a little dangerous, a Kunoichi said from the safety of the trees. She probably let her guard down because he's just a little kid. Remara dropped into his Juken stance. I'm stronger than I look. The boy bluffed, hoping to throw them off. I can promise that I won't go with you easily. His voice was deceptively calm, even though his heart was beating like a rabbit's. Some of the shinobi seemed to get nervous, but the majority just laughed, welcoming the challenge. Bring it, Gaki, one of the larger men said, grinning as he sauntered forward, smashing his fists together, and sparks flying from the knuckles. Isama's promised a huge reward for those eyes of yours, so whether we bring you back as breeding stock, or just as an unsealed corpse, it won't matter. The veins around Renmara's eye tightened. I don't have any choice, do I? He wondered before sighing to himself, and allowing his eyes to morph into the second state once again. Then I might as well fight you with all that I have to offer, Renmara said, his resolve covering the quake in his voice. Come on, then, because you're facing Renmara Kurosuke of the Tenseigan. Before his attackers could get over the shock of seeing the new Dujutsus manifest, Renmara was on the move. Though nowhere near as fast as Neji when it came to combat, Renmara had learned well, and pushed his chakra into his legs for the added boost in speed as he attacked the nearest shinobi. Hake Sanjuni. The boy roared out, striking the needed chakra points before turning to the next target. Unfortunately, the remaining 19 had gotten over their shock. They all launched themselves at the boy, only giving him a small amount of time to get himself in gear before he was overwhelmed. Kaden. Rotating as fast as he was able, Renmara blocked and parried each blow, sending them back to the ground. As he slowed, he felt the massive drain on his chakra the jutsu, combined with the Tenseigan, caused. 3 down, 17 to go. Gaki's got some skill, one of the remaining shinobi said, and those eyes. Isama's gonna have kittens when he sees those. A kunoichi off to his left licked her lips. We'd best take him back alive, who knows how strong a second-generation Dujutsu from this one would be. Renmara grit his teeth, I'm no one's cattle. He growled and sped toward the offending kunoichi, aiming for the newly discovered chakra point. She grinned and moved to slash at him with her kunai. Renmara ducked under it, spun, and slammed a deadly two-palm strike into her stomach. Gray. A torrent of blood erupted from her mouth as she fell, splashing a stunned Renmara. She looked at him with blank eyes. You little demon. Something broke loose then, a fear he didn't yet know he had. He remembered seeing same splash from Tayuya as she was hit by Raiga's attack, and then again as Naruto impaled Raiga. And now it was on him. He had caused it to appear. He had just killed. He knew it wasn't the first time he killed, but the rational part of his mind had been put on the proverbial back burner as the red liquid splashed onto him. Well, looky there, the kid's shaking, one of them laughed, he's scared. Renmara looked up at them, still dazed, and felt a familiar chakra signature approaching. One of the shinobi alighting in a tree, not paying attention to anything other than the boy in front of them, felt a cold chill run down his spine. If he is scared, then so should you be, said a cold, even voice from behind him. He turned, staring into blazing white eyes. Hake Hasengeki. The powerful vacuum strike of the gentle fist hit him square in the back, sending him flying across the forest and into another tree, splintering the bark and wood beneath. Neji dropped to the ground in his fighting stance, glaring around him. Now, your opponent is me. X equals. Runt, you need to pick it up if you want to catch up to them. Kyuubi snarled as Naruto sped through the forest at speeds yet unknown to those without Jitten. At this rate, they'll reach Kumon before we get a chance to bite them. Don't you think I know that, furball? Naruto mentally snapped, I'm going as fast as I can, even with your chakra. A minor thing, just don't let up, even if you feel pain in a few moments, the fox said, much to Naruto's displeasure. What pain? He asked aloud. I'm opening up all of you chakra systems. Kyuubi explained, while I cannot use all of the elements, I can use Fuden and Kaden, which I can effectively combine at will. You will do this if we come up against one of my brethren. Before Naruto could ask what that meant, a searing pain raced through his body, almost as if his very veins were being set on fire. Wah, what the hell? Naruto roared, nearly losing his footing. Calm yourself, the fox chided, it'll only last a few moments while my chakra heals the stretched tenketsu. Besides, you should feel grateful, having 2 chakra natures at your age, let alone 3 is very rare. He said, almost gloating, with all of your chakra natures awakened, you'll be much stronger than your average jonin when you've learned to use the elements. Naruto landed lightly on a branch to catch his breath while the pain ebbed away. Yeah, he growled. Sarcastically, and just so grateful. As he rested, the Kiba were still sparking with the chakra he'd fed into them, small bursts of red lightning shooting out. Hey, a voice said from above, Gaki, come to play. Naruto looked up sharply, seeing a dark-skinned man in shades grinning down at him, the sheaves of multiple blades on his hips and back. Best make way, cause them blade hold no sway in any way over me, Karabi, see. The blonde just stared at the man, a dumbfounded expression on his face. The Kyuubi was no better. Did you understand any of that? Not a word. I don't suppose you'd just let me by, nay? Naruto asked. Kurabi sighed, man, that ain't part of the plan, he rapped, I need told me to keep you away from the Gaki, see? But lemme lay this on ya, you gimme them fine kiba, and I'll let ya go like spring feva. That did it. No way in hell was Naruto giving up his swords when he'd worked so hard on his kenjutsu. The blonde dropped into a horse stance, hold either blade out at arm's length, Uzu Haiden no Jutsu, Moetsu no Orochi. Kurabi's brow raised at the name of the attack as Naruto's arms became 6. Ah, hell no. The eccentric shinobi whipped all of his swords out of their sheaths, each one in an impossible place, his mouth, the back of his neck, elbows, giving him the look of a porcupine. I invented this shit, ain't nobody gonna steal it. Naruto leapt up at him, thrusting his left arms forward. The Hachibi Jinchuriki grinned as he blocked all of the attacks at once. Naruto's second barrage of strikes was aimed at the vulnerable spots created when B blocked him, only to be blocked yet again. The blonde retreated to a branch not far away as B whipped around to face him, surprised. He asked, losing the rap, sorry, Blondie, but you ain't the only one I've seen use that jutsu. He grinned, I know how it works. It's a borderline genjutsu, moving your arms so fast it makes you look like you got 6. He flipped, sheathing all but 2 of his swords. Snake Fang strike is an Uzumaki style, so I'm guessing you be an Uzumaki, nay. Naruto growled, yeah, so what? B smirked, so, this is gonna be good. Damn it, I recognize that fool. Kyuubi roared, that's the Hachibi Jinchuriki. Runt, channel all of my chakra into those blades, and use that Raiden jutsu. Not sure what else to do, Naruto did as he was instructed, and the kiba glowed a dangerous red. B was again surprised, that chakra, ah, man, just what I need. Soryuha. Naruto's cry rang out, but unlike the last few times he'd used the attack, with the Kyuubi's help, the Soryuha did not come out as a bolt of lightning. Instead, the head of a massive dragon roared out, followed by the snake-like body as it flew toward B. He leapt out of the line of fire as the dragon roared by, shattering the trees around it, only for it to turn around and give chase to the Kumo Jinchuriki. B grinned, man, that is some jutsu you got there, Lil Gaki, it's making me go wacky. He landed and thrust his swords out, one into the air, and one aimed directly at the oncoming dragon, but lightning's my specialty. As he said that, the dragon was drawn to the metal sword like a lightning rod, shooting through the man's body and up through the other sword, shooting into the sky. Naruto grimaced at the red bolt shot high, gathering storm clouds around it. Damn it. Thunder rumbled as B gazed at him with a pleased smile. Now, Mrs. 9, it's show time. 15. Scorching revelation. Hurry the hell up. Tayuya snapped over her shoulder, we're way behind them. Behind her, Jiraiya was struggling to keep up for 2 reasons. He was still recovering from the toxins, and Tayuya was running far faster than he'd ever seen her run before. A small wonder, considering her reaction. Flashback, A Jinchuriki, Jiraiya said, does that change anything between you two? Tayuya looked at her sensei in shock. Change. Jiraiya nodded, in many of the villages, those that are called Jinchuriki are often feared and hated. Being from Iowa, you would know this seeing as your old home's 2 Jinchuriki. Tayuya shook her head, no, I never knew either of them. She said, I never even knew their names. And my village was, well, it was on the border. Jiraiya nodded again, staggering to his feet, and Tayuya moved to help him, well, that explains a lot. Either way, you do know how they're treated. Tayuya nodded as she helped Jiraiya to his feet, nearly buckling under the weight, making her wonder why her legs felt so weak. Naruto's led a lonely life for the longest time, and the fact that he hasn't told you about it until now. Tayuya stepped away from him, looking at him with what he thought might be anger. You think I'd hate him for that? She snapped at him angrily, as long as I was with that snake, I know enough about Jinchuriki to fucking know that they don't choose to be containers. Jiraiya grinned at the red head, and reached out, much to her annoyance, and patted her on the head like he would a child. Finally, she looked up at him as he spoke, someone I can trust with him. Tayuya blinked at him in confusion. Jiraiya shook his head, nothing, he removed his hand, let's get going. I doubt Kumo's going to pull any punches after their first attempt at the Byakugan. Equals flashback end equals. Even though she was still only scratching the surface, Jiraiya knew that something about the girl in front of him was blossoming, and it had everything to do with his blonde apprentice. Jiraiya was brought out of his musings by what looked like a red blast of Raiden shooting into the sky, forming storm clouds above. Damn, that had to be Naruto. He growled, "Tayuya, get going. I'm slowing you down." Right. Tayuya shot away, leaving him on his own. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. A puff of smoke alerted him to the creation of his clone. "You know what to do, now go." "Got it," the clone said and hurtled off in another direction. "Good, while he searches for Remara and Neji, maybe I can get to Naruto before things get out of hand," he thought, just before a loud rumble shook the air around him. "Or not, me and my big mouth," he thought as the trees swayed under him. "I haven't felt as much demonic chakra since the war. And it feels eerily familiar." Jiraiya groaned as the poison still in his system kept slowing him down. "I'm gonna have to ask for a stronger dose the next time I see Tsunade." Meanwhile, Tayuya was growing more worried by the second as the storm clouds gathered ahead of her. "Please be okay, please be okay, please be okay," the girl repeated over and over again. "I don't care if you've got some monster inside you, you're still my friend." She was closing in, fast, and the storm was getting worse as she neared, lightning shooting off in all directions. Not natural lightning, it was to tame. This had to be Naruto's Kiba techniques, but there was another chakra adding fuel to the fire. Just then, as she felt Naruto's presence, a tremendous roar ripped through the forest. It was a mixture of the wild cry of a human in battle, and that of a challenging beast. It was then that a blast of cold, ominous chakra washed over her, chilling her to her bones. "That's gotta be the fox," she thought as she collected herself. "Naruto's using its chakra, right?" She burst through the trees, and saw her friend, being scorched alive. Moments earlier with Naruto and B equals. Naruto grunted as he picked himself up from the forest floor, glaring up at the Hachibi Jinchuriki. "Damn it, are you even taking me seriously?" he growled out as the man leaned against a tree trunk, seemingly bored. "If you're strong enough to knock me around like this, then why haven't you killed me, or captured me, yet?" B gave a loud yawn, infuriating the blonde further. "Don't sweat it, cuz you can't cut it," he said. "My job's just to keep you off Naoko's fine lil tail until she gets the gaki back without fail, fool ya fool." "So he really is toying with me," Naruto growled, hearing another growl in response. "We haven't got time to fool around with this guy, but he's way too strong for me to take on without help. What do you think I've been doing while you've been playing?" Kyuubi growled at his container. "Haven't you noticed the pain from my tinkering is gone? Haven't had time to think about it." The fox growled angrily. "Focus, then. If you wanna get this guy off your tail, then you're gonna have to make him leave you alone," he roared. "Show some of our power, and I almost bet that the Hachibi will want to clear out before his container is injured. It's obvious the two are working together in more ways than you and I at the moment, so if you want to get out of here, then it's time to put the claws to him." Naruto nodded, before sealing the Kiba away in his hands, making B glance at him curiously. "Alright, Fuzzy, what do I do?" "First off, don't call me Fuzzy, my fur is soft and luscious," the fox growled. "Second, relax your body." "Huh," Naruto said aloud. "Relax body." Naruto groaned as the roar deafened him. Okay. Geez, I think I lost the hearing in my right ear," Naruto growled as he allowed his body to slacken. "Now what?" "Now, I use my Shikuden through you." Suddenly, Naruto's body began heating up to unbearable levels. Steam arose from his skin as a heat haze appeared around him. B lowered his glasses. "Man, what's that? Some kinda new attack?" "I don't think I want to find out," the Hachibi answered. "Seeing as that is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, then I wouldn't bank on Kurama not going all out against me. Especially since he probably hasn't forgiven me for, well, embarrassing him in front of Matabi once. Che, you made ol' Furball look like a screwball. I'd have loved to see that." "No, you really wouldn't," the Eight Tails said, sweat dropping. When he lost his temper over it, he managed to create Heron Bay in the land of hot springs. "Seriously? Would I joke about something like that?" "Ah," Naruto roared, white-hot flames erupting from his body. B's shades nearly fell off his nose. "Oh, that ain't good," he said, just as a girl popped out of the forest and came to a halt upon seeing the blonde state. Naruto. Naruto whipped around to face her, Tayuya. What the hell? That's what the fuck I should say. Tayuya snapped at him, what's going on? She yelled, pointing at the flames still licking his frame, what's with all the fire, and how the hell are you okay? Naruto blinked, looking at himself, the feeling pain gone, and scratched the back of his head. It's a little hard to explain. As B watched the pair bicker, he sighed, ya know, I'm startin' to feel low. Being forgotten's a blow to my ego, yo. Naruto turned back to him, look, Tayuya, I'll explain things later, I promise, but right now, I need to get rid of this guy. Tayuya reached into her pouch, pulling out her near-forgotten flute, not without me, you're not. We're a team, remember? Naruto glared at her, as the higher-ranking shinobi. You can kiss my ass with that shit. Tayuya snapped, the day I take orders from you is the day I. Yo. B yelled, tired of being left out, enough with the lover's spat. It's time to attack. Naruto growled and dropped into his stance, alright, let's see what I can do with this. He said, the white flames forming around his fists. Meanwhile, Neji and Remara were in rough shape, nor were things seeming to start looking up. Neji's primary element was unluckily enough Doden, and the Kumo shinobi still standing were largely Raiden-based. Remara, not for lack of trying, was far more exhausted than what was safe for his age. Neji could just barely make out the slightest glimmer of chakra still flickering with life in his system. The area surrounding them was decimated by the battle that had unfolded, largely due to the use of Neji's Kaiden, making the remaining 10 shinobi wary of him. It was blind luck that none of them had noticed his blind spot yet. He had narrowly missed being hit from behind there had it not been for Renmara's help. But now both of them were nearing their limits. Remara was most likely well past his own judging by the way he was leaning. Kumo was known for its shinobi having large chakra reserves, and unfortunately it appeared that those rumors were true. Neji could easily see that at least half the remaining forces still had little more than half of their chakra left. Neji-sensei. Renmara's small voice reached him, starting him out of his thoughts. We're not getting out of this, are we? Neji looked down at the boy somberly. I will do everything within my power to see that you escape, the young Hyuga said, smiling before whispering, when I tell you, make a run for it. Understand. Renmara's eyes teared up, but he nodded, hi. Neji scanned the area, looking for any sign of weakness in the circle formed around them to make room for Renmara's escape. His target would be the one with the weakest chakra signature, there. Stay right behind me, Neji told the boy, and rushed toward his intended target. They're making break for it. Someone yelled, stop them. But it was too late for that. Neji had already amassed the amount of chakra needed for his attack. Hake Kusho. He thrust out his palm only a few meters from the shinobi, sending out a blast of chakra so strong that it left a gauging trail in the earth beneath the jutsu. The stunned Kumo nin was thrown off his feet and slammed several meters away into a tree, splintering the wood as his body made contact. Run, Renmara. A moment's hesitation, and Renmara rushed past his teacher, hurtling into the forest as Neji squared up behind him. A quick glance over his shoulder halted him. Neji. Go. Neji yelled as the Kumo shinobi rushed him, I'll catch up later, just run. Liar, Neji thought to himself as he dodged kunai and shuriken. As he watched Renmara's innocent face give him a small smile before turning to run, he knew that there was little to no chance of him getting away unscathed. He felt the same thrill he'd gotten when facing down the archer, Kitamura when they had been sent to bring back Sasuke. Except this time he felt that he might not be so lucky. But that did not mean he would go down without a fight. As the shinobi all tried to get past him, a small smile graced his lips, reminiscent of Naruto's when he pulled a prank on someone. I've already told you, he said, forcing his secondary chakra nature into his system, your opponent is me. He spun around, Kaiden. Renmara didn't look back, even though he wanted to, badly, but his body just wouldn't stop running. As moved further and further away, he felt a massive spike in chakra that only belonged to Neji. Looking back over his shoulder for even second, Renmara saw the light of a blazing fire igniting the forest behind him in a dome that he knew to be a Kaiden. Gritting his teeth, Renmara turned and resolved himself to finding the others and bringing help. In doing so, he failed to see the two remaining figures leaping from the flames in pursuit. "Drive him toward the others," said the Kumo shinobi. "If he thinks he can get away, then we've got him." X equals. Jiraiya's shadow clone landed in the clearing mere minutes after the battle had taken place, finding the area burned and charred in a perfect circle. At its epicenter lay the prone figure of Neji Hyuga, his Heitai 8 removed, revealing his curse mark for all to see. "So, that's why they didn't take him," the clone muttered in disgust, kneeling down to check his vitals. There was a faint pulse in his neck, which he was thankful for. "All right, time to wake up, Neji," he said, lightly slapping the boy's face to rouse him. Neji groaned and his eyes fluttered open, looking up at him weakly. The clone grinned. "Welcome back, Gaki. Did you get the other two?" Neji demanded. Jiraiya's clone felt a pit of dread forming in his stomach. "Other two?" He looked around at the downed shinobi. "What was left of them? I see 8 here. Neji, are you telling me you missed a few?" Neji nodded. "Two hung back as I used my new Kaden against the others. I saw them moving around me as I collapsed. They checked to see if I was a branch member." He spat venomously, regaining some of his strength. "Apparently I'm not good enough for them." Jiraiya's clone created another and dispelled it just as quickly, letting the information travel back to the original. "I just let the others and my original know about it. If they aren't already on their tails, then they will be soon. For now, we need to treat your wounds." X equals. That being said, the original Jiraiya was still having trouble with his speed thanks to the poison, though he was no slouch when push came to shove. He was still faster than the average Jonin. Of course he was brought to a halt when he received the info from his clone. "Not good," he muttered. "I need to catch up to Naruto and Tayuya before they catch Remara." Of course, he didn't know just how close he was to them when he burst out of the treetops. What he found was close to an all-out war. Tayuya's flute was gripped tightly in her hands as dipped and ducked around, large tentacles whipping around the area, her 3 demons sitting down below on the ground, waiting for her to play. Naruto was also on the move, though he was not running from anything. He was making a beeline for the owner of those tentacles, and Jiraiya could only guess that this had to be Kurabi, the Hachi no Jinchuriki, given the octopus arms. "Banning Ufisuto." The blonde roared, driving a flame-engulfed fist into the nearest tentacle, igniting it immediately. He then whipped his body around so he could roll over the arm, and make a direct attack to the shinobi. Naruto brought his hands up and started running through a series of hand signs he recognized as the tiger, hare, ox, and dragon seals, all the signs for a powerful Kaden. Shikuden, Kitsunebi. Watching in amazement as the blonde's chest ballooned out to impossible proportions, Naruto then let loose a stream of blue-white flames directly at B. Yao. The shinobi yelped and kawarimied out of way, using one of his octopus arms to do so. "You crazy fox, ain't no way you gonna be this ox. We'll see about that." Tayuya yelled from below, drawing attention away from the blonde as she raised her flute to her lips, and began to play. Her demons perked up and jerked to life as she played her melody, and all 3 sightless face turned toward the fleeing Jinchuriki. "Now, that's not fair," B said, dropping his rap. "It's 5-on-1 here." 6. Jiraiya yelled as he leapt into the fray, surprising Tayuya enough to miss a note that caused the lead demon to falter as he pursued B. B, on the other hand, was too focused on the demons to pay any attention to the older shinobi as he jumped in, yet his aim was unerring as the Hachibi Jinchuriki swung his arm around, clocking the weakened Jiraiya in the throat. Lariat. Jiraiya was sent careening into the bark of a tree, leaving him to dig himself out slowly as Naruto got back into the fight. "Hey, no one smacks my sensei around but me," he roared, bringing his hands into the clone seal, Taiju Kage Bushin no Justu. B grinned as one became 1,000, "Trying to outnumber me ain't gonna work," he said, drawing all of his swords once more. "They don't call me the master of 8 out of hate." Tayuya, still down on the ground, paled. "He's not doing what I think he is he?" She asked of no one in particular, but the maniacal grin on the blonde's face gave her all the answers she needed. "Aw, fuck." She flashed up the tree via Shushin, and helped Jiraiya out of the tree. "We gotta get out of here before those go off. No telling what the fuck'll happen if he uses them all at once." Jiraiya groaned. "I'm with you, but we need to head for Kumo, now. They're chasing Remara right into a trap." "What?" Naruto had heard them. Damn it, I gotta end this. Go. He roared at his clones, and all of them rushed toward the unsuspecting bee. Just as B was about to start swinging, each clone started glowing an ominous white. Get out of the way. The original yelled at his friends, all right behind you. Tayuya didn't need to be told twice as she sped away with Jiraiya on her shoulders. We tilde. Bushin Debakua. Tayuya was moving as fast as she could using the Shushin no Jutsu, already a good mile away from the fight when the explosion erupted. She stopped and watched as the growing smoke cloud drifted up. Damn that stupid, blonde, son of a. Easy, Jiraiya told her, taking his weight from her shoulders. We both know he won't die that easily, and neither will the other one, for that matter, so right now we need to catch up to Remara before it's too late. Come on. Tayuya watched him go with a moment's hesitation, one last look back toward the explosion, and said a small prayer to what kami there were that her blonde friend be safe before turning to leave the area. Meanwhile, Naruto hadn't gone unscathed from the explosion, though he was far better off than he would have thought possible. He was lying on his back on the forest floor at the edge of what was most likely the blast zone. Surprisingly, sitting not too far from him, was the Hachibi Jinchuriki himself, scribbling on a notepad. He saw the boy looking at him and grinned. That was some fight, Gaki. Totally got my blood pumpin' real snappy. He said, still scribbling. Well, looks like I done failed this one, big bro's gonna wail on me for sure. Huh. Naruto sat up, wincing as his body ached. What are you talking about? B shrugged his shoulders. Well, you see, I was supposed to make sure that Sanin stayed off the lil Gaki's tail long enough for us to nab him, but since I got caught in a fight with the Kyuubi no Jinchuriki, he must have gotten past me. He smiled, letting his glasses slide down his nose in a sly grin. See, I can't disobey my cage, but that don't mean I can't fail the mission. You were just too strong for me, Gaki. He raised his fist toward the boy. You and me, we gonna meet again soon, I think, and then we gonna settle this, ya hear? Inside the seal, the Kyuubi raised his head. He's offering you his friendship. He said in disbelief. At this, Naruto grinned and raised his fist to bump against B's. Thank you. Again, B grinned. Yep, I was right, he said, confusing the blonde. You're daddy's boy alright. Naruto stiffened. You knew my dad. X equals. Renmara's tired legs were ready to give out at this point as he ran at full speed through the forest, ducking and dodging kunai and shuriken attached to wire aimed at his legs. The two shinobi that had survived Neji's attack just wouldn't let up. As soon as he thought he was gaining ground, one of them would appear in front of him to capture him, sending him sprawling and running again. That was when it hit him. They were driving him. As fast as they were, they could have had him at any time, yet they were wary of his abilities, having seen firsthand what he could do, untrained as he was. Reaching into his pouch, he retrieved a soldier pill and popped it into his mouth, allowing it to restore his chakra to some degree, enough that he could take down these two shinobi, or die trying. He skidded to a halt, whipping around, his Byakugan coming alive, and dropped into his Juken stance, ready to fight. You're not driving me anywhere, now. Then two men landed in front of him, far too relaxed for his liking, and started laughing. We don't need to, Gaki. The one in the lead said, pointing behind him. You don't know it, but the border of Kumo is just right there. Remara cast a small glance behind him, and through the trees, thanks to his eyes, he could see a large stone gate. Kumo. That wasn't the worst of it, though. Waiting on the other side of those very trees was an extremely large force of shinobi, all with chakra levels far higher than his own, and one of them dwarfed even Jiraiya's. Growling at the hopelessness that threatened to break him, he turned back to the two men. I'm still not going down without taking you two with me. He launched himself at the two, chakra blazing at his palms, but the second one blurred into his line of sight and rammed his knee deep into his stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Naoko-chan was the best of our Jiten users, but she wasn't the only one. He informed him, then smiled cruelly. I'm going to enjoy watching some of our more forceful women having fun with you. Renmara growled and stuck his tongue out, intending to bite down, but was grabbed by the chin by the leader. Now, none of that. He laughed. We were paid to bring you in whole, and we wouldn't wanna tarnish our record, now, would we? Yeah, but I don't think he'll be using his tongue much. His partner laughed, then something caught all of their attention. A smell, faint, yet potent. Gas. Suddenly, Jiraiya flashed down in front of them, grabbing Remara around the waist. Now! He roared before jumping away. Onodoro. Tayuya's voice rang out, and the familiar demon lanterns shot out of the shadows, igniting the gas too fast even for the Jiten user. Jiraiya and Remara landed in a tree a safe distance away where Neji was waiting. Remara, seeing him, gave a cry of, "Sensei!" and rammed into him, nearly strangling him in a bear hug. Neji winced as he patted the child on the head. "It's good to see you too, Remara-kun, but would mind letting go?" he asked. "My ribs are bruised." "G. Gomen," the boy said tearfully, wiping his eyes on his sleeve, I'm just so happy to see you all." "Damn straight you should be," Tayuya said, landing beside them. "Come on, we need to scram before those Kumo asshats move in." "Going somewhere?" a rough voice called them from below. Jiraiya sighed as I stepped out of the trees with a small battalion behind him. "Raikage-sama," Jiraiya said, trying for reason, "you do realize that this boy you're after is a Konoha shinobi, don't you?" I laughed. "I don't think so," he said, grinning up at them. "One of Raiga's men was a spy of mine, and kept me informed of that kid's developing eyes. He was actually supposed to bring him to me once they matured, so you see, I have a claim on him." "Like hell you do." Tayuya snapped angrily, gripping a kunai tightly. "You won't touch my little brother." "Or mine," said a new voice, one that the four of them recognized. Naruto stepped out of the trees, looking ragged, tired, and pissed. Tayuya could see that he was unharmed, but showed signs of injury from the blood on his clothes. She realized that the fox had probably healed him sometime during the chase. I regarded the newcomer with contempt. "So you managed to get past B. HMPH, he must be getting rusty. I'll have to send him out on missions more often to whip him back into shape." Naruto growled, and shocked them all by how beast-like it sounded, even I. "It takes a Jinchuriki to beat a Jinchuriki," Naruto said as his new Shikuden flames flare up around his arms and legs. "And I'm no ordinary Jinchuriki." I was starting to regard this boy with a slight respect. He resembled someone he had fought against long ago, yet. "So, it's true. You are his son, aren't you?" Jiraiya stiffened, hoping the blonde wouldn't get curious, but those hopes were destroyed the moment the blonde smiled. "Yeah, I'm Minato's son," Naruto said without humor, spreading his arms out as if presenting himself. "Orenji Iroh no Kajayaki, Uzumaki Naruto, son of Konoha no Kiroi Senko and Akai Chishio no Habanero." He clapped his hands together into the snake seal, looking up at Jiraiya, and motioning for them to leave before turning his attention back to the Raikage. "I'll give you one chance, let us go." I outright laughed at the young Chunin. "Or what? Use it, runt." Kyuubi roared. "Run!" Naruto yelled, going through dog, horse and tiger, and Jiraiya took off with the others grasped under his arms. Shikuden, Shokyaku. An enormous amount of chakra was then gathered underneath the boy's skin as the flames from before sprouted from his skin. I could recognize a large amount of it being the chakra of a Biju, knowing that Konoha housed the Kyuubi, though this was the last place he expected to meet him, let alone it being his old enemy's son. Suddenly, B was there, grasping his brother under the arms, and lifting him out of harm's way as Naruto gave out a scream as the flames erupted from him in a massive wall of flames, scorching anything unlucky enough to get in its way, like the slower shinobi in his squad. I could only watch as his men were incinerated. == Some distance away, Jiraiya and his charges rested against the trees as they waited. Naruto still hadn't made an appearance, yet, and after the shock of the jutsu he used, no one wanted to think about what had happened. Tayuya was pacing back and forth, attempting to wear a rut in the ground, apparently. "What's taking him so fucking long?" she growled. "He should have been back by now." Jiraiya sighed. "Relax, Tayuya-chan," he said, much to the girl's ire. "If he died, then the fox's chakra would have erupted like a volcano, and seeing as it hasn't, he's most likely taking his time. Just you like that would have taken a hell of a lot of chakra." "It did," Naruto groaned fro himself as he limped out of the forest, smiling at his friends in greeting. "Miss me? You idiot." The yell came from the most least likely source. Tayuya launched herself at the blonde, knocking them both to the ground. "Do you have any fucking idea how worried I've been? Where the hell were you?" "Oh wow 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 wow." Naruto yelled. "Take it easy. I was trying to take the long way so I wouldn't leave a trail." Tayuya glared down at him, after that stunt you just pulled. I don't think those fucktards are gonna come looking for you. Neji scoffed. Naruto just used Shikuden, he pointed out when the girl rounded on him. Kumo loves Kekkei Genkai more than Konoha. So they would have gone for him, Jinchuriki or not. His statement brought the whole conversation to a halt. Tayuya looked down at the blonde she had pinned before getting off to help him up. Naruto was glad she wasn't angry, but was surprised when fiery redhead wrapped her arms around him. Tayuya. I'm sorry, she whispered, hiding her face in his shoulder. I'm so sorry. I should have known. The signs were all there. The healing, the large chakra reserves. She looked up at him. Why didn't you tell me? Naruto shrugged, blushing at the girl's closeness. I guess. I didn't want you to hate me. He admitted, I don't have a lot of friends, and, well, I guess I thought you might want to get away from. Ow. Tayuya smacked him. What was that for? I could never hate you. She yelled, shocking him as tears sprang to her eyes. You're the first friend I've ever had, and you think, after all the shit that I went through because of that fucking snake, I'd hate you because you had an overgrown furball in you. The next person to call me a furball is gonna get eaten. Kyuubi snapped, but Naruto ignored him, hugging Tayuya against him tightly. Thanks, Tayuya-chan, he said, resting his chin on top of her head. When did that happen? She wondered as she used to be taller than the blonde. Ahem, Jiraiya cut in, I really hate to break this up, seriously, but some things need to be explained, I think. Naruto glared over the top of Tayuya's head. You first. X equals. RWAH. I roared angrily, damn it all, we were so damned close to having the Byakugan. How the hell did he get past you, anyway? B, and, coincidentally, Mabui, were cowering behind what was left of the Raikage's desk having been thrown against the wall in a rage, followed by several large holes punched through the walls. B peeked over the top. Well, you see, that Gaki had some mad skills, he said as he brother raged, he got me with that Shokuden of his, and then knocked me clean with about 1,000 exploding clones. Gee. I roared again, his lightning armor forming. Mabui, update the bingo books. I want that little rat on the run. Mabui poked her head above the desk just so her eyes were visible. Hi, Raikage-sama. But please don't destroy any more walls. Shut up. X equals. Jiraiya stared at the blonde over the fire they'd built after his arrival, night having settled. Naruto looked like he was ready to tear someone apart, literally. His eyes were still red and slit. So, Jiraiya asked, what do you have to say? Naruto growled, I want to knock your lights out. He snapped, you never told me who my mother was, because she was from a great clan that was coveted. Yeah, but why the hell didn't you tell me about my dad? Sarutobi thought it would be best since Iwa still holds a slight grudge against him. Jiraiya explained, both he and the council thought it would spark another war if it was none Minato had a son. Tayuya nodded, yeah, I can understand that. A lot of people cursed his name when I still lived in my village. Jiraiya sighed, he also thought you would have gone running your mouth the moment you found out who your father was. He continued, believe me, I wanted to tell you, and so did Tsunade, but we wanted to honor his wishes. Naruto clasped his hands in front of him, looking into the flames. And what about you? He asked, where were you these last 13 years? Jiraiya thought about that for a moment. I could tell you at least 1,000 things that would make sense, and 1,001 more that wouldn't, he said quietly, but the simple fact of the matter was I was scared shitless of being a parent, let alone a guardian. I had no knowledge about children, nor was my reputation anything to be proud of. So I gave you over to Sarutobi-sensei in hopes that he would watch over you until I could come train you myself. I see now that I was wrong to do so. When I heard about your life up until now, I wanted to murder each and every one of those fools that made you miserable. But then I'd be just like Orochimaru. He looked up at the boy, whose face was darkened by the shadows cast by the fire. I wasn't totally out of your life. I would drop by and make sure you were all right, and leave money with sensei so you could buy food and clothing, though it wasn't until later that I had heard people were upping the prices for you specifically. I would also send you birthday gifts. Remember Gama-chan? That was you? Naruto asked without looking up. In Nightcap-kun, Jiraiya smiled, recalling Naruto's nicknames for the little nightcap he wore. I also bought you that houseplant when you showed interest in gardening. Naruto remained quiet afterwards. Jiraiya sighed, your father and I were as close as father and son. And I loved your mother just as much as if she were my own daughter. But in their greatest time of need, I wasn't there. I could have performed the Shikifuin back then so you would at least have one of them, or both, considering Uzumaki have been known to survive the extraction of a biju, but to my greatest shame, I was out of the village. And to add to my shame, when they named me your godfather, I panicked and left again. He looked at the boy, who still looked down at his hands. I will understand if you wish to call our training quits right now. After all I've done, I wouldn't want me around either. Naruto clenched his teeth. Are you trying to run away again? He asked, looking up at him, his eyes welling with tears as they became their cerulean hues again. I just found out I have one small bit of family left, and now he wants to hightail it back home just because I'm pissed at him. Some godfather you are, pervy sage. Would you stop calling me? No, you lost at the moment I found out who you were. Naruto roared, you've got a lot of making up to do, and it's not just me now. He gestured to Tayuya, and Remara, you've got 3 of us now, and you've promised to train all of us. You're not backing out of that. I won't let you. He's right, Remara said quietly, looking over at the Sannin, I'm happy with the 3 of you. It's almost like I really have a big brother and sister, and grandfather, even if you can get a little crazy. Tayuya huffed, crossing her arms, you promised me a shot at Orochimaru. I ain't leaving until I can kill that bitch. Jiraiya looked around at all of the students he now had and smiled, I can't win against all of you, alright, I give up. I'll stick around. 1 week later, Konohagakure no Sato Tsunade was sitting in her office going over the day's paperwork with the aid of Kakashi as he had been elected future Rokudaime, when Shizune burst through the door, Tsunade-sama. It's terrible. Tsunade looked up from her work and noticed that Shizune held a bingo book to her chest. Don't tell me. Naruto's been added as in Seat B, rank shinobi under Kumo. Bingo book reports. Orenji Iroh no Kajiyaki aka Naruto Uzumaki, Hisida low B rank shinobi of Konohagakure no Sato. Displays extreme mastery of Kage Bushin no Jutsu, and is confirmed to be in possession of Kurigakure no Sato's Kiba Twin Thunder swords. Confirmed son of Minato Namikaze, Konoha no Kiroi Senko, and Kushina Uzumaki, Akai Chishio no Habanero. Clan affiliation, Uzumaki clan. Age, 13 to 14. Status rank, Chunin Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Kekkei Genkei, seemingly Shikuden, scorch release. Approach with caution. Bounty for live capture, 10,000 Ryo, dead, 8,000. Ryo. Tayuya, a young, powerful kunoichi of Konohagakure no Sato. Known to use the demonic flute technique, it is advised to keep a fair distance away when facing her. She also displays mastery of the Onodoro no Jutsu Demon Lanterns of Kusagakure no Sato, combining it with the Kasumi Enbu no Jutsu to cause massive wide-range damage. Clan affiliation, unknown. Age, 14 to 15. Status rank, Genin. Kekkei Genkei, none. Bounty, 8,000 Ryo, dead 6,000 Ryo. Approach with extreme caution. Remara Kurosuke, an unknown child affiliated with Konohagakure. Wanted by Kumogakure no Sato for reasons unknown. Known by a Kugan user, but very powerful known jutsu is the Jukin of the Hyuga clan. Bounty, 150,000 Ryo alive only. Thank you for watching. Please remember make sure to like and subscribe, and if you have fanfictions you would like to see on the channel leave them in the comments, and have a great day.